A very good afternoon, good evening to all our listeners, wherever you're listening to me from on the surface of the planet called Earth. Good evening, or good morning, or good night, or good every time. I don't know what time you are, where you are in your own region. This is Heritage Television, and this is African Politics with the Boss. Tonight on the program, we're going to be explaining the Nigerian Amalgamation. We're going to be explaining it into details. I have some few gentlemen. They've been the daddies of all these struggles, who's been looking and researching and digging very, very deep to make sure they get to the bottom of what is actually going on in that contraction called Nigeria currently. And as you all know, Yoruba people, the Oduduwa nations, they want to cut out. They want to be on their own. They want to actually govern themselves. They want to run their own affair, which is we could call self-determination. So tonight on the program, I have two well-known gentlemen who has fought tooth and nail to make sure that things go well in this republic we're talking about. And I'm going to be introducing them to you, or maybe I should let them do the honor and actually do their own introduction themselves, because sometimes if you introduce people, you might call their name wrongly. Even though I'm a full-blooded Yoruba man, I don't think I'm going to miss these people's name, but still I will give them the honor to actually introduce themselves to you. So let me reveal my my guest to you tonight. Well-known people, well famous. With what they're gonna tell us tonight, you will know they've actually dig really, really deep. If you have to ascertain how much they've actually dig, maybe they dig up to from here to the moon to find out some very nice information for you guys tonight. So on the program tonight, I have two gentlemen. One is, sir, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Uncle, welcome to the program as well.
Thank you.
Now, let's do the introduction. I'll start with you, Daddy, yeah?
Oh, I'm Alex Ajala. I live in London. I'm from a corner of the Yoruba nation, the Akoko corner. And I've been troubled by some statements that my grandfather told me when I was young. And he said, I was in primary 3 then, and I can still remember clearly. I will say it in English. Is it right for us to be in the same country with the Fulani and the Igbos when we don't understand their language? He said that in Yoruba to me. And that message rang in my brain all through, and all through my life, and up till now. And that was why myself and my colleague here, we started digging deep into how did we come to this level. I'll stop so far.
Okay, I would leave coming back to your starting digging deep. I'm going to go back to the other gentleman, Mr. Adimola. Can you please introduce yourself to our audience tonight, please?
My name is Adimola Flavi, and from Lagos. And my interests in, well, Nigeria and how it came to being was aroused, to a level that was very high after the botched attempt to transfer power from the military to a democratic government, and that was way back in 1993. So I decided to do a little bit of findings by way of research into Nigeria and the background of how the country came into being and why it has so much problems and was always lurching from crisis to crisis since the so-called independence from the British, which would be 60 years in a few weeks now, in about 3 weeks. 60 years since independence, and
practically nothing to show for it.
The country is not stable, and there's need to find out why the country has not been stable. And so having done the research, which I did a few years ago, I was able to see all the areas where, areas of conflict where the country missed the opportunities to face reality, which they have not faced up until now.
So in reality, you think they haven't faced reality, but we'll come back to that as well. You're from Akoko, Ekiti, Ikari Akoko.
That's right, yeah.
And you're from Lagos.
Yes.
And you form a formidable force. How did you guys meet?
I would say at some point when Abiola's election was hung and quartered, I would call it, we had an organization called Nigerian Democratic Movement in London, of which I quickly became a member. And one of these evenings, this gentleman came in, I was telling me, he just came from Lagos, said, look, we don't really have a country, it's a dead place. If all these things that have happened is happening and we can't do anything about it, there's no future. And I said, what? That's exactly my view. And that's what I'm trying to push through this organization called the Nigerian Democratic Movement. And unfortunately, I looked at the crowd. We were all from the south. So how Nigerian are we? And these are the people protesting, trying to hold on to the apron string of a Nigeria. We don't know how it came about. Unfortunately, we had individually done the research to find out, and this is what we are going to present to you this evening.
Okay. So you during your struggle, looking for information, looking for answer, maybe you met in a library, is it?
No, we met in a meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and you find out you have the same interest.
Exactly.
And everybody start fighting the same cause.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. The amalgamation. That's what we want to explain. That's why we're here today. That's what we want to talk about. Where should we start from? Amalgamation from in 1914.
Amalgamation pre-1914.
It's actually pre-1914.
Yeah. And then all the other things that ended up to 1919, of which my colleague here will conclude about it. So, because we really want people to understand how we came into being. And that is why we are on this program tonight.
Where's the map?
Yeah.
The map I have, yeah?
You have
I have the map.
Yeah.
I will actually show you the map quickly. That's the map there.
Okay.
Yeah.
From that map, one can see clearly the
Northern Protectorate and the Southern
the
Protectorate.
former Northern Protectorate. Although smaller because it did not have Kogi and Kwara added to it, which are Yoruba areas which were invaded by Fulani. I mean, Ilorin was invaded by the Fulanis in 1826 when they killed the Oba, who was there at the time. Afonja, he had been Oba of Ilorin for about 30 years before he was killed, because he proclaimed himself Oba right after the death of Alafin Abiodun, who died in the 1890s. And the next Alafin was Aoli, whom Afonja had problems with. Eventually Aoli committed suicide, and Afonja proclaimed himself Oba in Ilorin, and he was in charge in Ilorin until 1826, when he was murdered by Alimi's son, not Alimi, Alimi's son, Abu Salam.
Yeah.
Murdered him in 1826. So, and the reason why we know this is because prior to his murder, the British had come into contact with the Sokoto Caliphate and the Borno Caliphate, the Borno Empire.
Yeah.
The Borno Empire then had the Shehu of Borno,
Yeah.
Mustafa El Kanemi was in charge, and in Sokoto You had Sultan Muhammad Bello. Sokoto at the time was actually spelled with a double C-A-T-O-O.
Yeah.
Before it was changed to the current spelling of Sokoto. Captain Clapperton, who most of us know as an explorer, but was actually a British naval intelligence officer, arrived there in March 1822 to see, first of all, the Sheikh of Borno. He came along with two other persons, Major Dixon Denham and Dr. Walter Odney. Dr. Walter Odney had been appointed counsel to Sokoto by the British Prime Minister at the time.
Yeah.
So the trip was supported by the Foreign Office, and they came, the Colonial Office, and they came through the north of Africa. And Captain Clapperton's traveling name was Rais Abdullah. Rais Abdul Allah. That was his traveling name. He couldn't travel under his English name because he wouldn't get to
he wouldn't get anywhere.
He wouldn't get to his destination. He would have been murdered as those before him. And Dixon Denham also had a traveling name, which was an Arabic traveling name as well. You know, and that was how they were able to make it to Tripoli, where they saw the Pasha of Tripoli, who gave them a letter of introduction to the Sheikh of Borno. The whole area was then known as the Sudan.
Yeah.
You know, so, and that was what guaranteed their safety.
The passage.
Yeah, the passage across from Tripoli down to the capital of Borno, which was then Kukawa.
Okay.
You know, sadly, Dr. Odney died shortly after he got to Borno, so it fell on Captain Clapperton to continue the findings on behalf of the British, which was designed to end the slave trade. So he continued down from Kukawa to Sokoto, and Nigeria's northern border traces Clapperton's journey from Borno to Sokoto. Clapperton was the first white man to see Lake Chad.
Okay.
He also stopped by in Kano, and Clapperton was responsible for putting Lake Chad and Kano on the map of the world. Lake Chad and Kano arrived on the map of the world through the efforts of Captain Hugh Bain Clapperton of the British Navy.
How did the amalgamation story then come in?
We are building up. So he arrived in Sokoto in full British naval uniform, spoke to, met Sultan Bello, and had discussions with Sultan Bello.
Yeah.
And Sultan Bello also made his intentions known, you know,
to this gentleman.
To the gentleman from the UK, and actually wrote a letter to the then King of England.
Yeah.
You know, seeking certain assistances.
Military assistance.
Military assistance, military aid. You know, and he also told Clapperton that he wanted to conquer everybody to the coast and to take charge of the slave trade at Badagry.
Yeah.
You know.
So, and this is their plan. I had the story that they have the southern trading area, which is the Niger Delta. We haven't get to that level yet.
No.
Just wait and
we're building it up.
You know,
And
so
let me remind you, after Aule's death, there was a remarkable name of a new Alafin, which says Alafin Majio II. Remember?
Majio II was actually the one on the throne when Clapperton got there.
Exactly.
So Clapperton later met him after he left Sokoto, coming down south through the Yoruba country. You know, after he left Sokoto, he came down south through the Yoruba country and stopped by to meet Alafin Majio II. You know, who sent presents to the King of England, peacock and so many other things that he sent down to the King of England. And He passed through to Badagry and then went back to England.
Yeah.
It was on his second trip. When he came back on his second trip, he came by boat. To Badagry, because the British Navy was now establishing its presence in the Gulf of Guinea to stop the slave trade.
Yeah.
So Clapperton came by boat with Richard Lander, and it was when he came by boat and arrived in Badagry, and then took the journey from Badagry through Yoruba land to Iseyin. When he got to Iseyin, the Baale of Iseyin informed him that Oba Afonja had been killed just 4 weeks before his arrival, murdered. So he got the intelligence from the Baale of Iseyin, and all his notes throughout his traveling period, all his notes when he spoke to all the Obas and all the chiefs of all the areas, including the Sultan of Sokoto, the Shehu of Borno, they are contained in his journals, which you can find at the British Library.
Proper documentations.
Yes, the journal of Captain Clapperton, Dixon Denham, and Walter Odney. In fact, when he first arrived, he found that Mungo Park's gun was found with the Sultan of Sokoto, and it was already, broken. And he now, on behalf of the British government, requested to
investigate.
He requested for Mungo Park's journal. Yeah. And the Sultan of Bello told him that the journal was actually with the Etsunupe. So he stopped by the Etsunupe to collect Mungo Park's journal. So and that proves that Mungo Park did not drown. He was murdered.
Yes. Because if he's died, if he's drowned, the journal would have been drowned as well.
Yes, if he drowned, his journal and his gun would have been lost in the Niger. What we were taught in school was that he drowned. He did not drown. He was killed and then thrown into the River Niger. That was what my research concluded, or what I concluded from what I found in the research. And when he came back the second time, and the Fulanis had invaded Ilorin and obviously killed the Oba, the Oba there after a dispute. The Oba had been warned by several people, including Abu Salam's father, that Alimi, who was originally his friend, that his sons might be interested in his
in the post,
in taking his state, taking his state away from him. But Afonja was such an intransigent character that he refused to listen, and that intransigence is still present amongst the Yorubas today. That same intransigence that Afonja displayed that led to disaster for him personally and to the seizure of
other alternatives.
Yes, of Ilorin is still present amongst the Yorubas today.
And if on a lighter note, Clapperton, when he came through second time to the Yoruba land and got to Oyo, in his journals he described Oyo as a very beautifully well set up city of about 15 miles radius as at that time. And he described a life of peace, understanding, and a form of democracy that could not have been anything other than a purity of life amongst a people who are civilized.
Yeah.
He saw us as a civilized people. And he was very careful not to let Sultan Bello to know that he has been to Ireland, because he did not want to offend them. And they have a different view. Do you remember Clapperton's view of Sultan Bello's attitude towards his visits, and how it ended up that when he was sick, because he didn't give Sultan Bello the guns he requested for, Clapperton was not allowed to reach his medicine that could have saved his life.
Clapperton eventually, on his second trip, when he got back, the atmosphere was not as friendly, and he ended up being detained Clapperton died in detention in Sokoto in 1828. He was detained, locked up.
Yeah, he was not allowed access to his medicine.
His medicine.
Yeah.
So unfair justice being meted out by the Fulani has been in the system for a long time.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, when he was going to die, he told Richard Lander that in heading for the coast, Lander was to avoid every other country, and that he was to specifically pass through Yoruba land because they are the most civil people.
And all these are documented in British Library?
Yeah.
They're in the British Library.
Yeah. Rare documents. Section.
Rare books.
Rare book section.
Fourth floor, rare book section.
Okay. I'm gonna speak to people at home first before we continue, because this is getting seriously interested, because there's so many things we don't know. There's so many things that looks like history is actually repeating itself. How history is repeating itself, I'm not sure, because we have people back home that are still playing into the same problem, into the same pot, into the same pothole, into the same pit as we speak. And not only that, back home, there are so many people here and every part of the world that are playing this into the same plight, and they're gonna get drowned. I'm afraid they're gonna get drowned. History has always been repeating itself with our people, and it's a big and massive shame that we're not doing anything to stop this nonsense.
Well,
if I may say something, the problem we have as Yoruba is that we tend to use certain terms which are not very helping. Say in Yoruba, why do you want to forget the past? The ancient masters, the Yorubas of the ancient times, if they forgot how they were being, then we will not still be having our Ifa and our everything that makes the Yoruba nation great. If they forgot that, we will not remember that the Yoruba people were able to do teleporting, Egbe,
yes,
and Kanoko, reducing distances by the power of a spiritual enactment, and which is why the Yorubas are seen as the people of Oro, Amoenio, Tonio Rolenu, that is the people of the voice.
Let's take this one to Yoruba proper conversation, so that we can. There are a lot of people online who are saying they want to understand it deep. So can we take it to Yoruba discussion and mix it?
We would not want to. This should be a topic for another time. I only mentioned this because my colleague here has said we forget the past. Yeah. We tend to. In fact, some ancient writings say the farther back you look into the past, the further forward you know what to do. You see.
The further back you look, the further forward you will see. Well,
we hold that, and that's Winston Churchill. And that is also what drives the ancient Yoruba people. Our modern Yoruba seems to have read books upside down, not thinking the right way.
There's a saying that says if you want to hide something from a black man, hide it inside the book. Maybe they're not even reading the book.
That's very true.
Yeah, because some of the time, some of the things I've sent out to eminent people, I find that they don't read them.
That's very true.
It's shocking until but luckily a few are now looking into what we have been trying to present. For the past, I would say, 60 years of my life, when I started to understand how to speak English language and Yoruba, which unfortunately at that time we were asked not to speak vernacular, but I did pay my pennies because I love the language.
Yeah.
I paid for speaking it because I always go home, go to school, not that we're very rich, and get the pennies from my mom.
Yeah.
And when I speak it, I pay my pennies because I love listening to myself. In our language.
Now,
so we are coming towards what my colleague is going to expound as to the next stage of our discussion. Yeah. With this just preamble and about the amalgamation. And
after Clapperton,
yeah,
because Clapperton came to establish the presence of the British Navy in the Gulf to stop the slave trade. And eventually British naval frigates started arriving in the Gulf to stop the slave trade. And he had discussed with Bello that they were going to have to look for something else to do, and that the slave trade,
It's a don't go area anymore.
yes, had to be stopped. The 1807 Act had been passed by Parliament. So,
Okay,
So-
if they try to stop the slave trade, but they come and cause more trouble.
no. Let's take it.
Step by step.
You can continue.
Yeah,
I'm listening.
So we were trying to stop the slave trade and to create legitimate trade between
The
the people in Africa and the rest of the world. Trading agricultural produce, commodities, and all that
That's oil
stuff.
palm.
Oil palm cotton and so on. But they had some problems on the coast, which meant that they also had to use force in certain places,
Area.
like in Lagos. They had to remove the Oba Kosoko, who refused to sign
No slave business.
Yes, to end the slave trade. He refused to sign the treaty, so they had to force him out of power using, again, British naval gunboats.
Is that when the people from Benin take over?
No.
That's another story.
that's,
So guys, you're gonna hear so many stories today. You know that.
So the effort,
Yes, and that blood is-
the effort to stop the slave trade on the coast was actually spearheaded by Bishop Ajayi Crowther.
Okay.
Because it was Bishop Ajayi Crowther who approached the British government that Kosoko had to be removed and Lagos colonized to stop the slave trade, to put down the slave trade. So Bishop Ajayi Crowther at the time had become an advisor to the British Prime Minister Lord Palmerston and also to Queen Victoria. He was a regular at the palace, Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle, where Queen Victoria loved to hear Bible verses in Yoruba and Yoruba Christian songs.
Does he speak you? Does she speak Yoruba? Or
No, she doesn't speak Yoruba.
she just like the tone.
Yes. So and Bishop Ajayi Crowther along the way had been the first known Yoruba and Nigerians to come to England to school, having arrived here in 1826.
1826.
Yes,
That's
and
200 years ago.
Yeah. So and he spent some time here in school in Islington. I think the school is still there, and under the Anglicans, and then from there moved to Furabe College, where he was the first student at Furabe College in Sierra Leone. So he became an advisor to the British government and to the Prime Minister, to Queen Victoria,
Sorry.
to Queen Victoria,
Trying to switch
and
up.
it was on his advice that the British government decided to stop the slave trade in Lagos by removing the non-pliant Kosoko and putting Akitoye, who was on the throne in Lagos. So Akitoye was called back from exile, where he had been chased to by Kosoko, and he took over, and the slave trade, he signed all the documents and the slave trade and to start the end of the slave trade and the beginning of legitimate trade in cotton and palm produce.
Okay, that was the one that gave back to the Niger area trading company. Royal Niger Trading Company.
They came later.
Okay.
They came later. And they came. Well, they came around the 1840s. A guy by the name of Margaret Goliath was the first one to come to try and navigate the Niger and all that. And then some others followed him. Eventually, the Royal Niger Company was created, and and it had what's his name, the British,
From Liverpool.
the British,
Goldie?
yeah, George Goldie,
Yeah, Goldie.
George Dashwood Tubman Goldie, who now invited over Lugard to start, taking territory by military force. It was Goldie who invited Lugard. Lugard was in Uganda. He had taken over Uganda, and Goldie invited him to the area. And he had a history of bloodshed and mental instability, according to
the documents.
I.F. Nicholson in his administration of Nigeria from 1900 to 1960. He states clearly that
Lord Lugard
had a history of bloodshed and mental instability. Bloodshed because he killed people in Uganda, and to take over the place on behalf of the crown, as I say, at that time, So Lugard, Goldie invited him over, and that was how the creation of Nigeria started. And in the meantime, Bishop Crowther was also, had also, been taught about 7 Nigerian languages. So he became the local explorer, as they refer to him in the story of Nigeria by Michael Crowther.
Yeah.
So he became the local explorer. He went into the eastern part of Nigeria and discovered that the Igbos were there. He taught them farming, introduced seeds to the Igbo, taught them farming, built the first school there, built the first church there, and even wrote the Igbo language down. He was responsible for doing all that. Okay. So he, according to the British, he is the founding father of Nigeria, Bishop Ajayi Crowther.
Okay.
Continue. So after they started the legitimate trade, one of the British naval officers at the time, James Quintin Labrador Davis, was given some cocoa seeds by Brazilian sailors in the high seas, and he introduced cocoa into Ghana and Nigeria.
So cocoa actually came from another place?
Yeah, it came from Brazil. It came from Brazil.
Okay.
It was given to Labrador Davis by Brazilian sailors.
A Yoruba man.
Labrador Davis was a Yoruba man who was born in 1828 and died in 1906, but he became a successful merchant, trading cotton, exporting cotton, and had a cocoa plantation. He was moving all kinds of commodities using former slave ships that he had bought off the British
so that
Navy.
It doesn't go obsolete.
Yeah, off the British Navy, to transport commodities into Liverpool, where it was needed. And
okay,
he was a favorite of Queen Victoria.
And later on he married Queen Victoria's goddaughter, a girl known as Aino, who was from Egbado royal stock.
Wow.
Aino had been rescued by Captain Forbes on the vessel Bonetta, so she was known as Aino Forbes Bonetta, Sarah Forbes Bonetta.
Well, maybe the first inter-ethnic marriage.
And
maybe it's a Yoruba.
It's a Yoruba.
Okay.
So she was handed over to Queen Victoria by Captain Forbes, after Forbes had told King Gezo, who was a major slave trader on the coast, that Aino would be a gift from the king of the blacks to the queen of the whites. So Gezo let her go, and then she went off to England, and later on married J.P.L. Davis, and they lived in Brighton. J.P.L. Davis then was a successful merchant.
A millionaire.
Had a home in Brighton. Was a millionaire who had a home in Brighton, Bloomsbury in London, and on the Marina in Lagos. Davis Street in Lagos is named after him.
Okay.
And St. Paul's Church, Bedford, he was one of the financiers of the building of the St. Paul's Church,
Okay.
Bedford. the starting up of the original church, and CMS Grammar School.
Wow.
And CMS Grammar School, because he was friendly with Herbert Macaulay's father, who started the school, Thomas Babington Macaulay.
You know where you get all these stories from? There's so many things there. Have you guys ever thought of putting what is relevant together from?
Yeah, we've done that. We've done that.
We're just picking out the relevant things that we want our people to know.
So and that moves
the
us.
rest
That moves us
will
to
be an interesting.
yes,
Yeah.
the Christian missionaries started arriving. Townsend arrived in Abeokuta in, I think, 1843, and brought back homes. And then the slaves from Sierra Leone started coming in.
17 years in Yoruba country.
Uh-huh. And
in Ibadan.
Hindra,
Yeah.
Reverend Hindra also,
And the family.
all of them started arriving thereafter, and that was in the 1840s, 1850s, and then
Do you want to move your share forward a little bit
Yes,
because of that
and
cutting,
then-
yeah? So that it doesn't go down on us, yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
so and then that moves us past that period to a period where the Southern Protectorate was being formed. It was formed before they now formed the Northern Protectorate, and then when they formed the Northern Protectorate, with Sokoto and Kano being the last places where they fought wars, and I think they killed the Sultan Atahiru first, and the Emir of Kano. I think that was about 1903. But before that, in about 1896, thereabout, or is it 1897, on the 6th of June,
Yeah.
Flora Shaw, Lugard's wife, came up with the name Nigeria.
I thought it's a Nightingale. It's still the same one?
No.
Flora
Flora Shaw.
Okay.
Came up with the name Nigeria. She had other names that she considered, including Lugardia.
We could have been called Guardian.
So,
Just like Rhodesia.
so it could have been.
Cecil Rhodes.
What kind of nonsense are these people practicing on us?
So it could have been.
Well, they were looking for a trading post.
You could have been
against
Lugardia.
the
It
French.
used to be called the Royal Niger Company Territories, and they thought that was too long.
Long.
So they did the name, and that was how,
Nigeria came back.
Yeah, that was how Nigeria came about. It used to be called the Royal Niger Company Territories.
If I may add, that claim came about at the close of the diplomatic battle between the French and the British on the claim to the area called the Royal Niger Territories. Because the French actually signed treaties with the Obas of Kishi and other Yoruba Obas right across to Lokoja and Borno. Documents show that, and I've personally found out from a son of the Oba of Kishi about some of these documents that could be presented. Because we have really tried as much as possible to find out why we are in this mix. And that's also, like my colleague said, mine was inspired by my grandfather's statement when I was a little boy in primary school. Because I've always wanted to find out. And one interesting part of the history is that if I want to just jump forward to 1960, when we had the first national anthem, how it came about. There was no agreement between the East, West, and North for a common national anthem. Then we had that one of the secretary to the government of the day, a white lady, now wrote an anthem for us. And that anthem, the verse that really put me off was, "Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood wisdom." Then I queried it. I queried it. If we are different, how can we be brothers? And means we are in a state of deceit. Why can't we all go our different ways and cooperate separately? That's one of the things. That's just a side talk. My friend will continue about the amalgamation.
So, and at about that time, the history of the Yorubas was being written by Samuel Johnson, Reverend Samuel Johnson. So he sent his
Original copy.
original transcripts to the publisher in the UK, and mysteriously, the publisher later contacted him that
1897.
yes, in 1897 that the original transcripts had been lost and was willing to pay and all sorts of things. And that was how Johnson died in 1901 without
completing the history.
Yeah, so it was his younger brother, Dr. Obadiah Johnson, put together the transcripts again from the notes that he saw, you know.
That's why we didn't have a complete history.
He did eventually complete the history, but he had to start
from
on
what
that
he had.
because it was 20 years of work. So, and I don't believe that the publisher lost it.
Yeah.
I think what happened was that it was
Too sensitive.
intercepted because it was too sensitive by British intelligence.
They wanted it.
And it coincided with the time that they were trying to put Nigeria together, at least the Southern Protectorate. And there are certain things that were mentioned in that book that could have compromised the position of the colonial government at the time. So, and that was why the book had to, quote, disappear, end quote.
I like that. The book has to disappear in court, yeah.
You know,
Okay,
so,
okay. And that
moved us to the conquest of Sokoto and Kanu, and then 1903, the Northern Protectorate. The Northern Protectorate and Southern Protectorate started as two separate countries.
Yeah.
And the British quickly found out that the Northern Protectorate was not financially viable, which was the reason why they used indirect government there. Because they didn't want to employ people
to an area that's not making money.
That they were not making money already. They were in deficit because they were having to supplement the budgets of the North by £300,000 every year for 13 years, which was the reason for the amalgamation. The first part of the reason. The second part of the reason was that by 1899, a war had started in South Africa, the Boer War, which the British didn't do well in. Churchill, who was later Prime Minister during the Second World War, fought in that war and was almost killed. And the British now had to pay reparations to rebuild the South African economy. It came to £250 million, according to...
Which was a lot of money at that time.
Yes. At that time, it was £250 million, according to Neil Ferguson in his book, The British Empire. Neil Ferguson was a Cambridge University graduate who had read financial history, was a professor of financial history, and he went to Jesus College, Cambridge. He taught at Cambridge University, he taught at the University of Oxford, Harvard, the London School of Economics. So in his book about the British Empire, he revealed the fact that
it was that kind of money.
Yes, it was that situation at the British Treasury that led to the amalgamation of the Northern Protectorate with the Southern Protectorate, which were up until 1914 two separate entities.
Wow.
Two separate countries. You know, so that was what led to the amalgamation of Nigeria, as opposed to what we knew before to be some administrative convenience without anybody really telling us what was the administrative convenience or inconvenience. It was financial. So the amalgam was financial, you know. And before the amalgam in 1914, by 1906, Lugard was already removing £25,000 every year to support the North from the South. And by 1902, Churchill had, you know, as under Secretary of State, had said that the British government should jettison the Northern Protectorate. They should let them go. So Lugard was supposed to have granted them their independence, rather than latch them up onto a separate state that they did not, were not compatible with. And of course the British knew that from the start, and that was why they were created as separate states because the Northern Protectorate had 30 emirates.
Yeah. The Northern as 30 Emirates, yeah?
Yeah, the Northern Protectorate, former Northern Protectorate had 30 emirates. This was revealed by Financial Times at the time that Abiola was locked up and eventually died in detention.
Okay.
And the amalgamation, Lord Harcourt, in order for Lugard to coax Lord Harcourt into approving it, he named the port in the Delta after him.
As Port Harcourt.
Yes, Port Harcourt.
And they say bribery, corruption is in Nigeria.
So
they import it for us.
So he named the ports after Lord Harcourt, who signed the
agreement,
the amalgam. And when he presented his amalgamation documents to the colonial office on the 9th of May 1913, one Mr. Strachey commented that it was not going to work. And it was not going to work. He made it clear. And it was then that Lugard responded that it was only a temporary arrangement.
So, at this point, I will now want to add also that document treated that territory as a patented place, because the document was a letter patent, which the other Europeans should take note that they have no right to go into the territory now called Nigeria, the Northern South. We all know that what it said, patent and amalgam.
They had settled that during the Berlin Conference, because they had used the fact that they had been the ones to first of all come into contact with the Emirates to get that place under their own sphere of influence as the British. So, and at the time that Lugard was going to retire, in his handover notes, he said there quite clearly that the Fulani are a nuisance and a menace to any group they seek, any group or community they seek to attach themselves to. He didn't say in which way, he just said they were a nuisance and a menace.
To any community they seek.
And this is in the book?
Yes. It's in his diaries, actually.
It's in his diaries. You can find it in the rear book section.
You can find
fourth
it
floor in the British Library.
And it's in other libraries as well.
And we can record things there. If you go there with a phone,
you can scan.
You can scan, you can give it to them, they'll copy it for you.
And that's the same way we got the summary of the amalgamation document in our book that we published in 1999. It came out August 10, 1999, this book that I'm holding up. And in it we have the report, it's a 10-point report.
Let's have a look at the book again, sir.
Okay.
That's the book. I will place the copy of the front of the book online so that people can actually have a look at it later on.
I'm afraid we published only 1,200 copies. We did not sell it. We tried, because of our passion for people to know. We gave these books out to governments around the world. 100 governments and the United Nations and the British government, they had copies as at the time. But even the Financial Times commented on some of the points we raised in the book at that time in 1999. But like it is always saying, our people ignore the signals of the fact that instead we hear the drum beat of true federalism. It's a dead drum. It started from 1947.
Yes.
47.
The British, at the time of the amalgamation, the British wanted to break the country into small units, as appears here in
This other book.
in the story of Nigeria.
Can we see the back cover of the book?
The story of Nigeria.
That's the book called The Story of Nigeria by Michael Crowder.
Michael Crowder. So in the chapter Unification of Nigeria, you see the map of Nigeria and how they wanted to break it into smaller units. And eventually in 1947, they told our politicians and the political leaders that they were going to do that. But unfortunately, the politicians responded from the south that they had signed an agreement with the north.
The brothers.
Yes, that they were going to do it themselves. So that's why you're still arguing about restructuring to today. Because the agreement was signed in deceit. Because basically the Northern Protectorate was not going to break up its feudal territory. You cannot sign an agreement with feudalists to break up their territory.
And that's what we have not
That's what
really
we did.
grasped.
That's what we did, and that's why it backfired horribly.
Even then, before that agreement was signed, the North blackmailed. Will I use the word?
They didn't blackmail.
They requested.
They had said that they were not going to support any agreement by the British to make Nigerians ministers in the government and all the rest of it. And in order for the Southern Protectorate politicians, the Southern politicians, to be able to become relevant and get appointments from the British government, they agreed to give the Northerners more seats in the parliament than the two regions in the south, the east and the west.
And that's why we have 168 seats before the election. You had
So the
168
elections
seats in the north.
had been lost before they were
Before it was conducted. That's 1947, 1959. The election had already been lost in 1947. This is one of the facts that we found out and people are not looking deep into. How will you, and unfortunately if I come into demographics...
in the parliamentary system,
yes,
you can't win an election. Northern Emirates is theocratically controlled.
That's
You
it.
must vote for X, Y, Z, and that's the person
That's
you must
it,
vote for.
if you don't. And that's even evident during, we come back and forth so that people can pick
Feudal theocracy.
Feudal theocracy. Look at the first election of Obasanjo. The whole North were asked to vote for him. They did. Didn't they? Whereas please, those listening, check the records. We are talking from the basis of facts. Because we are not really sad that our people don't know, but we want to help our people to open their eyes, not to be fully blind, which is one of the things a former colonial officer said.
No, it's not a colonial officer, I was a minister.
A minister in the colonial office, Peter Smithers, said on July 15, 1998, he said, in exposition it must be said that we do not then have the example of the collapse of Yugoslavia and that of Soviet Union before our eyes. It should now be very clear for all but the willfully blind to see that it is extremely dangerous to force diverse racial and social entities into a single rigid political structure, such as Nigeria. This information is in the open place. It was published in Financial Times, where a lot of the Times of London. And the second one, which we tried as much as possible, and several of my colleagues, to push out, which we have again now started to push into social media. The earlier time in 1990s or 1998, it was Western Nigeria was already cut off from Nigeria. We could have it. We'll actually put this on the web so that a lot of people can read what we have here. We showed this to the political leaders that we felt would listen. But unfortunately, it is elections that were most paramount in their minds. It's unfortunate. We are still struggling. And apart from what Peter Smith has said, he said if this situation is not addressed, there'll be continuous bloodletting, the end for which we don't know.
For instance,
And he has been.
For instance, I mean, just a few days ago, I think it was the 1 year anniversary of the lady pastor that was killed in Kubwa in Abuja, hacked to death by some unknown persons, whilst she was evangelizing in Abuja. Now, my own take is this. When Lugard put together the Northern Protectorate, one of the agreements that the leaders of the Northern Protectorate at the time extracted from Lugard was that he was not going to bring Christianity and Christian influence and Christian religion
to the north
and Western influence into the north, particularly the Emirates. Abuja is part of the Emirates. Abuja has an emir. So, and since before independence, particularly after independence, and particularly more recently with the rise of Protestant churches in the south and all across the country, we've been pushing into these areas. And this has been the source of violence and killings and people being murdered, callously.
I would say, remember, there's a documentary that was published in 2002 or 2004, The Imam and the Pastor. That was a documentary trying to find a meaning for cooperation. But where has that from? It broke down. That, you see, we've been going through a cycle of deceit, not wanting to admit that this thing cannot work. It is the saddest part of the history of a people who are highly civilized but do not know who they are. Instead of thinking for themselves and let any other person who wants to work with them do it at his own will. We cannot force our education or our civilization into other people's land.
No.
And that's another thing my grandfather said. How will you campaign if you go to outside land and you are speaking Yoruba and you say, combine with will they understand you?
Understand you.
This, we are trying to, we are not English people, we are Africans. We have our language, our distinct ancestral origin in different parts. Unfortunately, today that before coming, I now heard that the United Nations peacekeeping force is tired of trying to keep peace.
In Nigeria?
No, in the Congo. The Congo I have studied, just like my colleague. We've gone through most of Africa. We find that the same problem is repeating itself over and over until we know who we are. To me, I would say Mososombe was the wisest African at the time, 1960s, when he called for the breakup of the Congo so that his own people, the Kantaga people, can have their own country and develop according to their own pace. You see, we are ignoring history of our people. We are not Europeans.
What I find is that the civilizations that want to separate religion from state risk a loss of their civilization. The way things are going now.
A civilization that wants to separate their religion
from state.
Yeah.
Recently, yesterday I was reading that, or was it this morning, that Sudan has agreed to separate religion from state. It was pursuing the strictest form of Sharia law prior to now. But they've now seen that it was better for them to separate religion from state. But in a situation where that has not been put in place, then other civilizations risk being,
Was wiped out completely.
Yeah, it's been wiped out.
Okay, let's go back on track.
So,
Yeah.
and before we continue, there's a part of the amalgamation we did not complete, and that is the Egba land. You want to speak about that?
Well,
Yeah.
Egba
land was not part of
the
amalgam.
part of Southern Protectorate until
was
about
an-
1918.
Yeah.
It was an independent principality like Monaco and France. It was independent, it had its own separate government and all this.
So Egba land was not part of the amalgam until Lugard brought his Maxim gun from the north.
Until there was a war, the war in Egba land, and then in 1918.
Yeah, Ogun to be, I think, where the popular song came up. Duro de mi boss Kokoto, Egba Salo.
It's a bar before.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you see, there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
The amalgam is just
A little bit, an inch, a sort of pinch on it.
no. The amalgam itself should by now be dissolved because it's a trading arrangement against the other European countries. They amalgamated a place which I term as the British trading post called Nigeria, because it was set up as a trading post. And some of us who are old enough will remember that. And if you want to trade in their trading post, you have to sign an agreement with them, just like the French signed the CFAO and SCOA were trading in Nigeria even under the colonial times. It was an arrangement to prevent war between France and England. That's it. It did not concern our own interest, which we should have been looking at. We needed to see who we are. And nations, that's why sometimes I find it abhorrent hearing people say Nigerian nation. It's not a nation. There are different nations. You have the Caliphate and the Emirates in the north, the Yoruba group of kingdoms and the Republican set of the Igbos, and smaller nations like the Junkus, the Bibio, the Jos. But some other nations that have been aggregated together and formed a country that has no meaning.
That's not working. A country that is not working, that will never
we
work.
are going on over and over, bloodletting. There was a horrible civil war. And if I may remind the listeners, in 1953, when Akintola was sent by the Action Group to go and campaign for the independence movement, he was driven back. And in 1947 or so, when Abba Macaulay and some of the others I know.
Bamako died in 1946.
Oh, 46. No, it was the 46 visit in Kaduna Junction. Most of those who attended the rally were all from the south. Luckily, I met one of the elderly gentlemen, a prominent lawyer of note, retired, living in London, Ali Kine. He said that on reflection, he found that they were in the middle and the other people were on the escapes, watching them. What are these people saying over there? While they were jumping up and down, we want independence for Nigeria. The Hausa Fulani people looked at them as if it was a dance floor thing. Said, what are they saying? You see, we have had.
Let me speak to people at home for a second. Guys, this program is very important. If you want to learn, you need to share it far and wide because it's getting interesting by the second. Please share so that people can actually see it. I know if you want to hide information from our own people, hide it where they can find it. They will never find it. So let's continue, sir.
Well, you have some other things you want to say?
Well, beyond.
So when the amalgamation was done in 1914, and they had Egba to it in 1918. So what was the sequence of things that led to the independence, and why did they break it up during independence?
Well, during the independence negotiations, we didn't ask to be broken up. We wanted to the leaders in the south wanted Nigeria.
They want to rule Nigeria because Nigeria is bigger.
Yes, they wanted
Why
Nigeria.
would you be trading something that will be pulling you back? There's no profit in the north.
Yeah, well, maybe
They did not look at that.
They didn't look at that. They were looking at basically the size of geopolitics. They didn't look at other things, because if they had looked at other things, then maybe they would have, made decisions that were different from decisions they made.
I used to be a teacher, and I would prefer a smaller class, than a mammoth class that I cannot control.
Oh, well,
That's exactly
that's exactly what it is, because some of the most successful nations in the world today they're not like nations.
No.
They are small nations.
They're small nations.
Look at Singapore. Look at Austria. Sweden.
Less trouble.
Yeah.
Well,
Even Liechtenstein with 38,000 people. It's a very successful nation inside Europe. I would not want to discuss some of the interesting facts of Liechtenstein.
The point is this: if you don't have any internal coordination, which Nigeria doesn't have, you can be 500 million people, you will not get anywhere. So it's not size.
It's the cohesion.
There's no
the
cohesion.
understanding.
Nigeria has no
The
cohesion.
language.
Nigeria
the
has no
origin.
cohesion. See, the less the ethnic differences, the better. Some are lucky; they don't have so many. Like Botswana, they are all one people, so it's Botswana is a successful country.
Botswana.
But it doesn't mean that yes, we have to be just solely one ethnic nationality, because maybe it's impractical. But where you can be one race, and Nigeria has more than one race, because there are black Arabs in Nigeria. There are black Arabs in Nigeria.
And the northern area, the Fulanis and
the Fulanis are black Arabs. There is the Shua Arabs, and there are other races like that. So it's not.
So technically, they might not even be part of Africa originally.
Well, yes, they migrated from wherever they migrated, but I mean, it's not. It's not easy to manage a country that is so mixed. A lot of our politicians want to how about China, how about India? India is 1 billion, China is 1 billion. Show me one black African country that is a large country and populous and successful.
Look at the Congo.
Congo.
That is as big as Europe.
It's as big as Western Europe. Look at it. It's a mess. Look at Sudan. They broke up. And that cleavage that passes through Sudan also passes through Nigeria.
And even Southern Sudan, now, if I may want to bring that up, I was with the representatives
that
of Southern Sudan,
geopolitical cleavage, which is based on race.
Yeah. And
it's based on race.
So
it's based on race, it's based on, to an extent, religion, but more on race. But a lot of people don't know that.
And that is why we believe that our people should wake up to reality. Willful blindness to who we are will not save us.
I'm afraid to bring this one up. Yeah, there's too much of internal fighting than to see the real thing among us.
Yeah.
Well, what is the source of the internal fighting?
Who wants to rule? Who wants to be the boss?
Well, who wants to be the boss? That is the simple analysis of it. It's deeper than that, because basically, if you know a bit of Arab history, the Arabs don't allow other races to rule over them.
That's a fact.
Certainly not Negroes, whom they see as slaves.
And
but what we find is that the political elite in the South, they're not. I don't know. There's a
selfish interest.
There's a disconnect that does not make them to see things.
Not only selfish interest, the lack of research into what brought this thing over.
This is
For the
colonial.
past, they refuse to research into these things. If at some point, two of the leaders in the South and North, one said Nigeria is not a nation as you look at Europe or France, who speak French or English, and then the Germans. That's it's a mere geographical expression, which I say is just a trading post that was created to
in
yeah.
1947.
Yeah.
His father wrote a book titled Path to Nigerian Freedom,
Yeah.
where he said Nigeria is not a nation, it's a mere geographical expression. There are no Nigerians in the same way as there are English, Welsh, or French. The word Nigerian is merely a distinctive appellation to distinguish those who live within the boundaries of Nigeria and those who do not.
Yeah.
So you will be shocked to find out that when it comes to negotiation for
They forget that one.
independence, he jettisoned that position. His father jettisoned that position and took another position. If you are taking this position,
It would have been better for us all.
then I think
We won't be in this. The Western region economy will not be bastardized the way it was bastardized.
In fact, in the analysis of Western region, which most people who don't know will say Nigeria was good at one time. It was not Nigeria; it was Western region, and it is noted worldwide that at that time there was a portion of an African country called Nigeria that black people were able to develop down civil service to the level of the ones that you find in Europe, and to organize themselves, to give themselves free education, free health service, roads and agricultural development to a level that was comparable to that of Europe. And in the field of
Or even better
communication,
than France.
in the field of communication, it was one of the places in Africa that first had a television station, even when before Australia had or France. And south of the Sahara, there was no other place as good as this thing. If we had stayed separate and cooperate with others, by now, by this year, we should have been celebrating 6 years of free air service in Western Nigeria, whatever name we have called it. By now, we should have been celebrating bumper harvest and producing our cars and lorries, because there was already an attempt, because we had trade centers and institutes all over. Shoes were made in our way that were of the Italian quality. I would want to stop at that point. We don't want to. These are things that can be done again. And I believe collectively, even the messages and the drumbeat from all over the corners of Nigeria is that it's best for us to be apart from each other. Even the 2040 conference, a Northerner representative not even mooted the fact that we should go our separate ways, that we are just wasting our time. Our people did not take advantage of that statement, and the rest kept mute. Whereas that is what we needed. But now perhaps we have had all the railways that we needed to build. Odua investment, after all, 40 years ago, attempted to build railway in the southwest, but the order came from above that those things were exclusive matters. How do you stop development? And now there's no electricity in Lagos, a city of over 20 million, that should be a center of commerce and industry. That should be the sinus of the whole world.
Have you seen
has no electricity. And then we all keep quiet. We are rushing about election. It is not the answer. We should think back into ourselves. It's not election. It's not that we hate any part of the country. The country just can't work. We have to be separate to cooperate. The amalgamation has to be broken. And then when we break the amalgamation, the south and north, then we will now decide who and who we want to cooperate with. If the Yorubas want to cooperate with certain other people that believe in their own vision and tradition,
and movement,
then they can. And if the Igbos want to do this likewise, they do the same thing. It's this is about the humanity of Africa, the humanity of Nigeria. We cannot continue to have continuous bloodletting, left, right, and center, and compromising. How I don't know. Is it that we are collectively promoting this dastardly attitude towards ourselves? Why do you accept bloodletting when you can easily stop it? Let you have your country. And from the map there, the Arewa people have, by default, I would say there's already an Arewa Islamic Republic in Nigeria. We are ignoring it to our own peril. I would say that anytime, over and over. Nigeria is a divided nation. The word, hold on, because that word was used at a time, but I refuse to accept that it's a nation. It's a divided geopolitics. We are different people with different, it's not a diversity. Because some scholars in Nigeria will say, the diversity is work. It can't work because we don't understand each other. We are not English people. If I want to go and campaign in the north and I'm speaking my language, how would they understand me? If they come to me and they speak their language, how would they understand me? After all, in the National Assembly, there's been instances where those from the north will just turn into their language and speaking. I praise them for doing that. The South should wake up. I praise them for doing that, to realizing who they are. But it's the South that is still willfully blind to these issues. And the danger in trying to force the people to become one. I cannot lose my nationality and as a Yoruba person and I become an Hausa man. How will I understand their tradition and others? And again, some of the languages that come across from some of our highly educated Southerners, detribalized individual. There cannot be a detribalized individual. You are born a Hausa man if you are Hausa man. You are born a Yoruba man if you are Yoruba man. You cannot be detribalized. You can understand the other people maybe at arm's length, have a common goal to maybe have common things to do together, but not under the same umbrella of government, which we have been trying for this past many years.
And secondly, the other thing is that, I mean, the word tribe is wrongly used in Nigeria, because Yorubas are not a tribe, they're a nation. And then within the Yorubas you have tribes, Egba, Jebu, Jesha, Wondo, Oyo,
Ikale, and all that.
So on. Those are the tribes that make up the Yoruba nation. Likewise, you have it in Igbo land.
And in the north.
And as well in the north. So, reducing a nation to a tribe is one of the
first. It's an insult.
They are not tribes. They're nationalities.
Something came up in the paper today, in the last couple of days, and one of the things that came out there is that they're talking about a core-Atlantic place, the new area.
Yeah.
And they were selling some flats for $2.7 million.
Dollars?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that.
A flat, a 3-bed flat.
Yeah.
On the 31st floor of a building. They call it penthouse. Nearly $3 million in Nigeria. Who is buying it? There must be rogues.
Well, for those who want
and
for those who want to, I'd rather we stick to our topic, which is
the amalgam.
Yeah, the amalgam. The reason I brought this one up, because I really want to warn people about this. Yeah, if you like, go and buy that kind of property.
How many Nigerians have $3 million to buy an apartment?
Okay.
Not many.
Even foreigners.
So most of those who will buy it are those who are in government and have access to
some dodgy monies.
Slush money.
Even foreigners, go and buy that kind of property.
No foreigner.
When we get Oduduwa Nation, you will lose it.
No foreigner will come into Nigeria with $3 million to come and buy an apartment.
No.
I mean, do
Because
you know what $3 million will do in London? Do you know what $3 million will do in New York? Do you know what
the kind of investment that will come back from it?
Yeah.
In other cities around the world, and then you now take it to an
Lagos.
unstable territory. The territory is unstable.
It's like a country like this is like what you call jigai in the midst of
It's an unstable.
midst of suffering.
Yeah, it's an unstable territory, and
They are locked up into that
I don't
place.
know anybody who's
Reasonable to go and do that. That's why I decided to bring that one up, because we want to preempt one people about
you don't need to warn anybody.
Don't want anybody. We don't have the time for that. The truth is that we are establishing the fact that that country cannot work and will not work. We want to stop the continuous bloodletting by dissolving the amalgamation.
So 2014 is supposed to end, because they said it was originally planned for 100 years.
Well, I haven't seen any evidence.
But it's supposed to be in temporary
indicates-
arrangements. Our people from the south took over trying
That
to manage
indicates that,
it,
but
thinking that they have a country that they want to manage, and
But,
they erroneously call it a nation.
So it's not a fact that you guys have been saying 100 years.
no. They said it was going to be temporary, but we haven't.
How temporary? How many years? Look at, and that's why when in his handing up notes, he clearly stated that I like hearing from your friend.
No, I've said it before. You made a statement about the Fulanis, made a statement about the Yorubas and the Igbos as well.
Yeah.
So, and what you had to say about the Fulanis was, like I said before, a nuisance and a menace to.
What did he have to say about Yorubas and the Igbo?
He talked about the love of money and the greed and the
So it's been like that for a long time.
Yes. And he wasn't really happy seeing Yorubas sitting in Lagos having afternoon tea. Who the hell they are? Black people having afternoon tea in Lagos? Because the civilization was already there even before it came. There are several institutions in Yoruba land that are older than Nigeria.
Yes.
Yeah, that is known by a lot of people. The first graduates and all that were already in 1840s ever before, and they are classified as people from Yoruba land of West Africa. So there was not ever a Nigeria then. So that's why sometimes when I look at Wikipedia and they ascribe Nigeria to people who lived before 1914, it's chronologically wrong. And this, I think that has to be corrected. But I say that a few of them have been corrected so far. Yeah, and we need to know who we are and where we are going. We cannot tie ourselves down to an imagery of greatness when there is no greatness in it.
I know this is going to be demanding. There must be a lot of water, saving of water on this table today. That's why I decided to bring this big bottle.
Oh, that's
Because I know this is going to be very, very hot. Even me, that I don't drink a lot of water that easily in the program, I finish my cup as well. Okay, let's move on quickly. What do you think we can do now? It seems we're stuck.
No, we are not. We are not stuck. What we need is information, spreading the word to our people. Spreading the word to our people, letting them know the truth. Because the truth shall make you free. And when that truth comes out, because I have tested the ground back home with a lot of young people, they keep on wondering what is. In fact, I recall my mom said, what is why are we having independence when we are not ready for it? We don't know each other, she said. No, she said she would have preferred Elizabeth to come back and rule until we know who we are. That's I don't do my
maybe some area, not Western region. Western region were ready for independence.
That we were not. If we were ready, we would have got it in 1957, because tactically the British wanted to give us independence at the same time with Ghana. Well, we opted for self-rule.
We're waiting for
And
our
then
brothers.
in the daily times of those days, I was in primary school. Because we were well taught in the Awolowo schools, we learned, my education started learning mathematics in Yoruba, Iwe Ishiro, and science, health and Iwe Imototo for science, health and hygiene. And then we were also taught how to make composite for crop planting agriculture. Right in the primary school, in the Awolowo school. What do we have now today? Children, modern children nowadays are taught not to speak Yoruba. We were taught in Yoruba and English. English was a subject, Yoruba was a subject. And I understand Bafafunwa was a proponent of using mother tongue for education. He fought and he left. And he experimented in Ife, which I understand that all the children that were taught in the secondary school in Yoruba language passed excellently. They passed excellently till the school, I think, if it is closed down now. These are some of the things we should be looking. We are not looking at ourselves. Most of our politicians are only interested in looking across the Niger. You cannot make a place that is not yours when they don't want you. After Dati Ahmed in the year 2000 said it during the Kaduna riots, that let us break up and let's see who is going to suffer. It's published. It's in the open space. These are not imaginations. Dati Ahmed. And at some point it was rumored that he was the one who provided the cutlass for the mayhem that happened. Well, it's unproved. He was not charged. But that's the story we had. See, we are not, I keep on repeating, we are not helping ourselves. If we keep on beating the drum of what I have just seen about the papers, that it is restructuring. If you restructure, who is going to head the center? The development we had in Western region was on the basis of a colonial government that was controlling us from London, not from Lagos. So we were even given the opportunity of having semi-embassies. The current embassy in London now belongs to the Yoruba race, Western region. And that was where we sourced for a lot of things. And some of the buildings that we had that are now taken over by federal government never paid a penny back to the government of Western region after independence. The WSBS TV that was built on that 3 months, all this achievement was from Cocoa Reserve funds. We didn't borrow any money for this. Yeah. We invited Sole Bonnet to teach our people how to do things, and hence we had Haboni, the Odian Sons, and Teogbade constructions. They grew up out of all this interaction with the Israeli company. They did not come to dominate us. They taught our people. And then we have great artisans growing up out of this teaching. And they were building roads side by side with the Sole Bonnet. I grew up to see all these things. And roads then were not having potholes. Even the untarred roads had proper gutters and drainage. What do we have now? Even untarred roads have open pits in the middle. So we have left our civilization behind instead of continuing. So some of our young ones now, having been told, we say, what has happened? What has happened is we decided to keep a country that we have no understanding of. How do we say that? A lot of people are still, even some of them will say, Lugard was an evil person and so on, he created Nigeria. Yet they will come back and say, we shall manage it. How can you manage what is
wrong in the first place?
What is wrong in the first place? It cannot work. Please, sit back and think. If you want to quickly move our civilization to the 21st century, it would be good collectively and separately for us to dissolve the amalgamation so that we can start from scratch and develop our new nations according to our own pace and our interests, whether on religious purpose or secular, and then the introduction of education, curriculum-based development, which will teach young ones how to do a lot of things, from plumbing to carpentry to engineering, right from youth, not only in the university, right from even secondary school, even primary school, how to make composite to be able to plant some crops in your back garden, new designs of homes, making the rural area livable, not having everybody running out of the rural area into cities and living in slums. It's sad to find all this happening today because we are not thinking. And this is based on the amalgam that has created the mess of which we are trying to extricate ourselves. The earlier we break the amalgam, we dissolve the amalgam, the better for everybody, either the north or the east or west, and all other peoples that are trapped into this.
Okay. Guys, I am so full of impartation today. So many things have been rambling in my head since the program started because I don't know where this chap get their brain from. They were even quoting dates and dates upon dates upon dates upon dates. Mr. Falabi, you're not up to 100 years old yet. How did you know about all these things that happened in 1814, 1826, 18 whatever?
It's about research.
And you remember all these dates?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because we want others to know.
But this is the issue I have. Are you sure the others want to know? Do you
I
think
don't know.
They will want to know. Because the longer we keep on saying this, then it will sink into the minds of people who are so not intransigent, not willing to look at the other side. Why not sit back over a cup of
let me open the
think.
line while we're discussing this and see how much interest people have in this, and then we can actually discuss it a little bit, because it seems they don't care. People don't care about this program. They will prefer to be watching if I'm cussing you or you're cussing me. If I'm fighting you or you're fighting me. Okay, guys, lines are open now. Phone lines are open now. The usual number for lines is now open. So for your contribution is +44. Sorry. 734 123 4560, and that's WhatsApp only. Only, guys. Yeah, the lines is open now. So that is the number there. I want to try and pin the number as soon as possible to make sure the number is there too for people to use. Okay, is it giving me the chance to pin it now? Let's see. Okay, I've just pinned that comment there. So the line is now open. If you you put some profile plus IG only. I don't know why I decided to say that, because that is not what I typed. But it doesn't matter. Instagram, maybe it says WhatsApp profile plus IG only. That's a big lie. So that is the number there if you want to call. You can call if it suits you, if you think the program is something that's of importance to you, and we can take it from there. The good thing about it is that people can actually watch it later on, and then we can see how important education it is for all of us, because this is brilliant education. I don't know. How long have you been learning and researching this, sirs?
Well, this is research that I've done many years
Last
ago.
30 years?
No, I've done years ago.
Yeah.
After the
Abiola.
brought me.
Yeah.
Whew. That is when we really sat down to do
the annulment, and then
yeah.
subsequently, 5 years later, he died mysteriously in prison. So obviously, it was a time to start to have a good look at
What went wrong?
Nigeria and what went wrong.
So should we call that one post-mortem? For
Yeah,
Well,
for that.
I knew that there was
It's a
something.
trigger that made us to.
Yeah, I knew that there was something wrong with
Yeah.
the whole setup, but then that just pushed things over to getting involved by way of research into the country.
What went wrong, how things went wrong,
Yeah,
and how
yeah.
things went
Yeah,
really, really bad.
Yeah, how things got to that
What
stage.
to be.
Yeah, how things got to that stage where you basically it wasn't safe to contest elections.
Because the only time they let us rule is when they feel we should rule.
You know,
If they don't want us to rule, they...
it wasn't safe to contest elections freely in Nigeria. I mean, especially when it comes to the presidential elections, you can't just come out and contest elections. Everything is constricted. The parties, the whole environment is completely controlled, and then by the time when someone contests and wins an election and they don't like the result, they can lock the person up and even kill the person. Then obviously you need to know what's going on here. What is going on here? Of course, there's a...
Yeah, that reminds me of the second election of Shagari. I was in London then, and the election was supposed to be held on the 11th of October. I left with my wife then, left London for Nigeria and arrived on the 10th, and arrived early in the morning, and then we had someone who drove us back to Ibadan where we live. The following day, we took our ballot papers to go and vote.
Yeah.
Only to be told by the Turks that they had already voted for us and that they knew we were traveled and they have helped us to vote. I just looked. And then they were holding cutlasses. That was in the south. And broken bottles. I said to my wife, let's just stroll around and see what is happening.
They voted.
Then we were living in Sunday Street, and Dr. Loyo had a building just on the roadside of Sunday Street.
Can I stand up and come and...
No, I'll do it for you. What kind of phone is it? Samsung? Android?
It's an Infinite, it's an Android phone.
Android.
Infinite. I have the socket and everything.
Okay. It's the new head, the new charging port, yeah?
I have my charger.
Yeah, because I have one that is longer. Yeah, you might probably be able to...
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
Is it that one?
No,
Is the old one?
it's the old one.
Okay, is that one there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, and it's a fast charger as well. Sorry, we've been using the phone to do so many things and working so many things on it, so we need the phone to be charged so that we can do what we have to do. Okay, we're gonna be bringing the program to an end. We've had about 2 hours of solid discussion, and yeah, we started about 7 o'clock.
Yes.
And it's 10 minutes to 9 now.
Oh,
Right. The kind of information you guys are pumping out make me wonder, what have I been doing not learning something like you? And what have we Nigerians been doing, or Yoruba people been doing, not trying to learn about our history? If you want to learn about Ifa today, people will tell you you're doing something wrong. If you want to learn about all those things of the past, people will be telling you that what you're doing is wrong. Whereas you cannot separate your culture from your life.
Never.
Because if you do, you're not going to go anywhere.
You see, what you just said reminds me of
I mean,
Professor.
let me come in here again.
Okay.
I hope I'm still on air.
Yeah, you're still in the air.
I mean, I think it was Obasanjo who first came up with this issue of detribalized Nigerians, you know, and he was talking about it and saying, I mean, if, as I said, the Yorubas are not a tribe, but if we accept that there's such a thing as being detribalized, would you not agree with me that MKO Abiola was probably one of the most detribalized Nigerians?
Yes.
So how come he won an election,
And
it was annulled, and then he was
killed.
got rid of?
Yeah, that's a fact. So he stretched his hand
Of love.
He actually won the election
yeah.
based on his campaign strategy And even more importantly, his philanthropy.
Philanthropy, yeah.
Across the country.
The whole country.
Yes, north, east, west, everywhere. He was known everywhere, every corner of the country.
Yet he was rejected at
Yes.
the election.
At the election,
When
he
he
won when he came to the people, but then there were some people who sat in a corner somewhere and said no.
He can never.
And they were prepared to go to any length. And of course, we saw what length they were prepared to go to.
And in fact, I remember one of these military guys who claimed to support him said, even if Abiola becomes head of state, he cannot be commander-in-chief. So what kind of... Yes, it was published in the papers then. I don't know.
That was Colonel Umar.
Yeah, Colonel Umar. These are fast in the open space.
Dangiwa Umar
Yeah.
said Abiola could become
Head
president of Nigeria, but not commander-in-chief of the armed forces.
So you see,
So clearly, there's something wrong.
Not something wrong. There's so many things wrong. So you can be the commander-in-chief of the armed forces if it's yourself, but if it's a Yoruba man,
he cannot be. Yeah.
And yet, you have people clamoring to go to that center so that they will become a useless president who will be dictated to. Because that's what they're going to become, a useless president.
Obasanjo almost became that.
No, Obasanjo couldn't have become a useless president as those that are clamoring now. Yeah. Because Obasanjo was a former member of the Nigerian army who rose to the rank of a general and who also participated in the Nigerian Civil War, bringing it to an end. You know. But I can tell you that if anybody from any other part of the country wins an election as president, and let us admit that the election is not annulled like Abiola's, he will become a lame duck president very easily.
Look at the constitution of Nigeria currently. They messed up the constitution so that Nigeria will never work.
You know, he'll become a very lame duck president very easily. Very easily. Unable to take critical decisions. And what kind of setup is that?
Okay, guys, I want to thank you for joining me today. I cannot thank you enough because of all the information you've managed to pump out to us. It's been a wonderful section with you on the show today. Sorry for that. I was reading a comment that came in that is very, very important. It's been a wonderful having you guys in the house with me today because I have been, it's more than me going into a training session. Yeah, because
some people are commenting.
Some people commenting there and they're saying so many things there. Some people said they're proud to be a Yoruba person with this kind of information you guys are revealing. And they thank you very much. Somebody said they were that the people who are clamoring for stupid things back home now should come and actually listen to what you guys are saying. That it maybe that might wake up their brain. It says some people in the past, some of the elders we have, they don't read, so they don't know like you guys. Still elder with intelligent, not Tiff Numbu, the jack of restructuring master, or who for some reasons, yeah. This really informative, right? People say, look, amazing program. This is the kind of program the youth one's supposed to be watching. Kudos to the host and the guests. So those are some of the comments that have been coming in because some people that want to acquire knowledge. Some people who doesn't want to acquire knowledge, even if you put knowledge on the platter of gold, for them, they don't care, they don't really want to know, they don't really want to know anything.
And that is dangerous.
Yeah, and that is very dangerous. And they're living on the edge anyway. So that is why the Fulanis were bringing mercenaries into Nigeria, like they did before the 2015 election, and nobody can query it. And that is why the NBA stand up against El Rufai's speech at the MBA program in Cardinal.
Let's say something about that. I think we have a position on that.
Well,
we believe.
Well, I mean, if you have a situation where one of the members of the MBA, who's a lawyer, wrote a piece about El-Rufai, I read the piece that he wrote, and
factual piece.
It was a factual piece, as far as I know. There was nothing in there that is not in the public domain already regarding the governor of Kaduna State. So I do not see why any member of the NBA, and because they are from Kaduna State or from the north or anywhere else, should take umbrage to the extent that you now decide to gather yourselves and go and form an alternative.
And because Nigeria is they're breaking it themselves. They're breaking it bit by bit.
As a professional association. And the reason why the lawyer who took that step, I took the step of writing the piece on El-Rufai, had to do so, was the last MBA conference which they had, where they invited President Muhammadu Buhari to come and speak. And he said that national security took precedence over human rights. It caused such a furore. So, and they didn't want somebody with El-Rufai's known
president,
which is out there in the public space, coming there to make a speech which may then turn out to be controversial and put the professional body in bad light. I mean, at least that was the
reason,
the reason given by the lawyer who wrote that piece.
And if you look at it, for creating an alternative organization, it's like bringing it up into Northern Protectorate and Southern Protectorate. The amalgam has been in fact, not threatened, has been shown as not working. So if the Northern MBA, so we suggested in one of my writings that the Southern MBA should consider themselves as Southern Nigerian MBA, so that each area should control itself according to the rule of law that they believe in, without any fear or favor. And since they are the legal entity that brings Nigeria together, it means all other bodies, like the Nigerian City of Engineers and all that, will now start to get divided up into South and North. Okay. And so we'll have an easy path towards the dissolution.
Okay, thank you once again. I really appreciate your time with me. I hope very soon, if I invite you again, you will be able to come. But before I go, I'm going to take your final word each. I will probably start with Baba Ajala first. Yeah, what do you think is the way forward about the amalgamation now?
Well, it is for our people to understand that we've been in darkness for too long, and that the amalgam, which is just a financial reason for creating it, and by default, if the South African incident did not happen, there wouldn't have been an amalgamation of Nigeria in the first place. There would have been a northern Nigeria and a southern Nigeria. And unfortunately, McGregor and the other governors who worked in the South tried to make the South a livable environment, and they were able to make more money, and the economy in the South was buoyant. They were not borrowing any money from the British Treasury as at the time. Hence, Lugard was able to gain some £25,000 every month, every year from 1906, and use it in the North. And in fact, by the time he was leaving in 1919, he took more than necessary to the northern coffers, and he denied it only to be seen in the audit records that it took more than what he claimed to have taken. It's in the records. You can check it out on the amalgamation, the administration of Nigeria, 1900 to 1960 by I.F. Nicholson.
Okay.
It's available to be bought.
And you had
all these informations are there.
And you had one of the patron for Yoruba World Congress in England, in the UK.
Well, I'm an enabler, I would say, and I'm an enabler for information for every organization that is Yoruba, including the Yoruba World Congress.
Yeah.
And I believe strongly in the leadership of Professor Banja Kitoye, because I see him as a more than a general who believes in the cause of the Yoruba race. Even though a lot of people still ascribe that he came out of Afenifere. Yes, he could be a member of Afenifere, but his vision is greater than Afenifere's vision. It is Yoruba vision.
I believe Ganiada said if they want to pick some few people that love Yoruba nation, that he will certainly pick Professor Banja Akintoye. Gani Adam said that himself.
Yeah, that was what gave me the joy of becoming one of the disciples to enable that the vision of the Yoruba race happens. I will talk to every organization that is Nigerian, whether good or the Yoruba, that's why I always say I should prompt myself, not Nigeria, the Yoruba race, because it's become anathema to my brain that I believe that we are greater together, even if we fight amongst ourselves. After the Greek city-states, like the Yoruba city-states and kingdoms, they fought each other, but each time there was a foreign intrusion into our land, they would stop fighting. That's the same way. And if you want to know some little nuances of people, the Greek and the Yorubas are the only nations in the world with 7 vowels in their language. If you want to know that, check it out. So, and there's a uniqueness in the Yoruba race that we should not allow our subsumption into Nigeria to die. We should get out of it as soon as possible. And with ease and peace. We don't hate anyone. We want to cooperate with others, but at our own terms, in our own country, and they also in their countries. After the book I wrote with...
have you got the electronic version of this book?
No, it's a little bit old because we published it in 1999, although it has a very important document in it, the amalgamation document, which is from the original copy and the print you can see. It's an original Asian print of the 1900s. We believe that with information, our path will be clear, and that those who think that we are not saying what they want to hear should sit back and think and see where the gaps are, because there's still more to say. We've only just touched on the tip of the iceberg at this moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go to Mr. Afolabi, Ademola Afolabi. I believe I'm right with that name. I really thank you, appreciate you for coming onto the show today, because both of you have brought a formidable amount of information to us, which is very good. So, Tinubu, did you have any word for Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu about his clamoring for election in 2023?
Not at all. Not at all, beyond the fact that, as I said before, any president who cannot control the army, as far as I'm concerned,
is wasting time.
Is wasting his time.
On that note, I will be calling it a day. It's been lovely having these gentlemen on this program today. They have given me more than enough to shoot. Once again, Baba Ajana, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. Yes. And thanks for the viewers and those all over the world who have had the patience to listen to what we have to offer. I hope the message will get through so that the Yoruba nation can come out of its doldrum. Thank you.
Okay, another writer
Yeah.
who recently wrote on the amalgamation and on Nigeria was saying that, I mean, having read so much about Lugard, that he ought not to be given pride of place, naming buildings after him and so on and so forth, because he was
full
not,
of dissent.
yeah, he was not a very nice man. I mean, from what one has read about him, the only positive information that I read about Lugard was that he was the founder of the University of Hong Kong in 1911. In Nigeria, he didn't found the university. What he founded was chaos,
controversy and mess.
And bloodshed.
Okay, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call it a day with these amazing gentlemen. I hope next time when we call them, they will be glad and willing to come with us again on another interesting edition. Maybe this time around we will be talking about Western region, and we'll be bringing you facts and figures from some other places like the rubber plantation, the Ijebu Farm project, the dams that's supposed to be working, producing electricity for us, but unfortunately they are not producing anything, and they are not being useful to us. So on that note, I will be saying on behalf of my guest tonight, I will be saying a very lovely evening to you all, or whatever time you are at your place. Thank you very much for watching us and joining us today. Hope to see you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
What's the Heritage TV? La, 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 la. Heritage TV.
Everybody in London, have you heard that Heritage Television has come up with something new? All your functions and celebrations can now be multi-camera live stream that was only reserved for the rich and famous. Having a function in London can be viewed clean and clear immediately from any part of the world. Trust Heritage TV to give you a better reach. Heritage Television also does photography that will make you the envy of all your friends and family. Heritage Television is the best. All your functions like birthdays, funerals, weddings, church anniversaries or harvest. Heritage Television is the master. We are in the heart of London with an ultra-modern equipped studio. You can call us on 020 800 46100 or email us info@heritagetv.co.uk or mobile 0734 1234 560. Heritage Television will do you proud.